Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. And I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me. As always, the NFL Draft is just days away. Here at Saturday to Sunday, we continue to put out wire-to-wire coverage. If you have missed any of the previous episodes, go back and check them out. We had tier buster episodes for every single position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. We had guests from the industry, Matt Wallman, dropping his insight on so many of the top prospects. We had David Syvertson out of Our Lads talking about the wide receiver and tight end class in great depth, talking about almost over 20 prospects. And then most recently, I shared my final 2024 NFL draft rankings for the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions. Today, I will be talking about my guys, right? Everyone has their guys. They're not the best guys in the draft. You know, some of them might be round one guys. Some of them might be day two. Some of them might be day three. But guys that you just like more than the consensus, or if you've been on for longer than other people, and there's just something about their games that you really like them. I'm doing both the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. I didn't really, while I have looked at and watched a lot of the tight ends, no one really stood out there as a guy that, I felt like really strong, like that's my guy. I think it's a very strong, O-line class, a lot of really good prospects there, but nobody that I'm going to kind of talk about tonight. But I will talk about every other position on the offense and defensive side of the ball. If you're continuing to enjoy this content, let me remind you again, the final Saturday to Sunday Football Premium Notebook dropped last week. It was the NFL Draft Projections Notebook. You can now get all three notebooks for $9.99. It is the best way to support us and to help us continue to do what we do here: server fees, website fees, subscription fees, everything that we need. So if you have been a longtime listener or never purchased it, if you can spare the $9.99, please consider helping us out so we can continue to do what we do here moving forward. If you've purchased it in the past but haven't picked it up this year, please maybe consider purchasing it as well. And again, just to kind of help us do what we do. We understand there are so many great resources out there, some free, some paid. But we ask if you could consider purchasing it to significantly help us out here at Saturday to Sunday. Get over to the website, S2S Football, fastest and easiest way to do it. You can read all about the notebooks, but the Draft Projections Notebook is the one that most recently launched. Tabs for every single position, offense and defense. Scouting, quick scouting profile in terms of like a snapshot of how they win, some developmental areas, combine measurements, combine testing, all that stuff. A round projection. And again, this is predicting how we expected to come off the board based on everything I'm hearing, listening, and reading from the people I trust in the industry. Not just taking a consensus big board that has a lot of people just sharing their rankings. That's not what this is. You want the consensus big board, you can go find it. This is from the people who I trust most in terms of what's out there to consume, gathering all that information and putting it together and trying to predict accurately how we expect these guys to come off the board and who to come off the board in round one, rounds 1 through 3, and then rounds 1 through 7. There's a tab predicting who we expect to be the 32 prospects off the board on night 1, a tab predicting who we expect to be the top 100 prospects off the board rounds 1 through 3, and then another tab predicting who we expect to be all 257 picks in the NFL draft broken down by position. Last year, we were 27 of 31 in round 1 at 87% clip. Round 1 through 3, we were 86 of 102 for 84%. And then we maintained that 84% by going 217 out of 259 correctly predicting the prospects that came off the board in the entire 2023 NFL draft. So that's the Draft Projections Notebook. You get the Scouting Notebook, almost 100 detailed player profiles. And then you get the Rankings Notebook, all our rankings, all our tiers, our Devy rankings. It'll have our Dynasty rookie rankings updated in real time during the NFL draft. And then after the draft, you'll get IDP rookie rankings. You'll get positional Dynasty overall rankings in a couple weeks as well, with all the rookies in the mix as well. So please, if you consider purchasing it, go over, get that, and significantly help us out. If not, wherever you listen to the podcast, rate, review, subscribe. Subscribe on YouTube if you like watching the podcast in video form as well. So let's get into it. My guys for the 2024 NFL draft, we're going to start at the quarterback position. When we're talking about the quarterback position, a couple guys that I want to get into. First one is Drake May. This has been one of my guys since last summer. I thought the difference between him and Caleb Williams was small. I still think it's not that significant. I think what Drake May was asked to do while he was at UNC was put a lot of pressure on him to try to make the big play, and it led to some poor decision making. It led to him rushing his mechanics and footwork at times. But you saw special plays from Drake May. You saw plays that I think could lead him to being a high ceiling uh, player in terms of elevating a team at the NFL, in terms of being the focal point of an offense, in terms of being a true franchise quarterback with top 5, top 7 overall upside. Guys that can battle out Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I think Drake May has that kind of ceiling to be a Justin Herbert-like player or a Josh Allen-like player. I think his arm talent, while it's not special or elite like maybe a Josh Allen, I still think it's very good to great. You mix that with the athleticism. I think there's a lot to like about Drake May and his overall upside. Another one of my guys, this is more of a, late round guys, is I like Jordan Travis a lot. I talked about last year liking Jaron Hall, who went, I believe it was round 4 or round 5 last year. I think Jordan Travis is a more skilled player. I think if Florida State would have been healthy and they would have made the playoffs, I think it would have given Jordan Travis an opportunity to show off that he has good arm talent. He's got good mobility. He's got good accuracy. I think when teams are looking for these quarterbacks on day 3, and last year we saw Aiden O'Connell and we saw Spencer Bennett and we saw Jaron Hall. I think Jordan Travis is more talented than all of them. So I think Jordan Travis, I know coming off the injury, but he intrigues me a little bit as like a round 5, round 6 developmental guy. And then the biggest developmental guy is Joe Milton, who I would take a shot on in round 5 or round 6. The size, the frame, the elite level arm talent. He's a guy who's willing to push the ball into tight windows. Obviously very raw, very unrefined, a lot of inexperience. But to me, as a day 3 guy, he intrigues me. So again, the top guy, Drake May, is my guy. And then obviously day 3, I think they were number 8 and number 10 on my quarterback ranks, or 9 and 10 on my quarterback ranks. I'm intrigued by Joe Milton and Jordan Travis as late day 3 developmental quarterbacks. If we take this to the running back position, I got to start with Trey Benson. I know he's my number 1 running back, but he's also one of my guys because he was my number 1 running back last summer. And I don't think that was on many people's boards. Most people had Braylon Allen. Most people had Blake Corum. There were other guys in the mix, but not a lot of people had Trey Benson last summer. So I've been a Trey Benson guy since last summer. I think his skill set is very similar to a Kenneth Walker. He's got that acceleration, athleticism, speed, and burst, but he's also got that contact balance to break tackles. His forced tackle rate was amazing according to Pro Football Focus. A lot to like about Trey Benson. I think he warrants going somewhere in the middle of round 2 to late round 2. But there's a lot to like about Trey Benson. He's definitely someone I would classify as one of my guys. Another running back, 2 more running backs that I would put in that mix. One is Tyrone Tracy Jr. out of Purdue. Obviously, I was very late to his film because he wasn't a guy on my radar last summer, former wide receiver. So I really didn't get around to watching him until after the college football season ended. But I've been talking about him ever since. I was talking about him before the combine. I was talking about him after the combine. I've been talking about him ever since. To me, deployment and usage of Tyrone Tracy Jr. could be very similar to what the Saints did early in Alvin Kamara's career. I think that's the ceiling case. I think the floor case, he could be used like an Antonio Gibson, but I think his skill set might be a little bit more explosive than Antonio Gibson. I think we're talking about a guy who, while very new to the position, and we saw some, lack of natural run instincts and some inexperience, he more gap than zone, because I think that inexperience shows up a little bit more in understanding the zones. But I thought in terms of his gap running, I saw good vision and patience, which is rare for a running back as inexperienced as him. I think there's some more growth to that in terms of in a zone offense, but explosiveness, speed, burst, acceleration, agility, movement skills, change of direction. And then on top of that, we're talking about a great receiver, obviously with his background as being a receiver. So there's a lot to like about Tyrone Tracy's game. I think he probably ends up going early day 3 in that round 4 mix. But I think the size, the frame, there's a lot to like about Tyrone Tracy at the next level. And then another one of my guys, another day 3 running back, is Rasheen Ali out of Marshall. Obviously, he got injured at the Senior Bowl. Missed most of 2022 with a knee injury as well. But I think we're talking about another guy that's got a 3-down skill set. I think he's one of the best pass catching running backs in this class. But I also think at 5'11", 206 pounds, I think he can handle a heavy workload. I like his run. I like his athleticism, the speed, the burst. I think really good footwork. With that receiving skill set, I think he's a complimentary running back, but could potentially eventually emerge as a guy who could lead a committee. I really like Rasheen Ali. I think if he had a good Senior Bowl week and then we saw him in the pre-draft process, he might be generating a little bit more buzz as like an early round 4 guy. I think right now we're probably looking more round 5, but I think he's a guy I'd be very intrigued with if my NFL team picked him in round 5 of the NFL draft. We take this to the wide receiver position. First guy I want to talk about right at the tippy top is Malik Nabers. And again, we all know Malik Nabers is special, but I want to talk about since last summer, I was saying Malik Nabers was going to be a top 10 pick. Malik Nabers was special in his own right. We knew Marvin Harrison was going to be in the top 5 mix, but I said since last summer that Malik Nabers had that level of explosiveness and upside that I thought Malik Nabers was going to be a guy that eventually pushed his way to be number 2 in this class, right behind Marvin Harrison and worthy of going right after Marvin Harrison. And nothing has changed. If anything, the gap is even tightened between him and Marvin Harrison, where you've heard rumblings of there being a 1A, 1B. Some teams even have Nabers as 1. And I get it. For me, Marvin Harrison is my number 1. But right there, Malik Nabers, then right after him, Rome Odunze not far away. But Malik Nabers is where I start this, because this has been a guy since, if you go back and listen to the tape, the podcast in August, I broke down Malik Nabers' game and talked about how explosive he was and talked about this is a guy who could take it to the house any single play. The route running, the separation quickness. I almost think that he's not even a refined route runner yet, because he just gets away with it. He creates amazing separation just with his natural athleticism and his skill. But we're talking about a guy who has continued since last summer, continued to do what he needed to do to be in the eyes of everybody as being a top 10 guy, right? But, last summer it might have been like Mecca Bukba, right behind Marvin Harrison and some other people in the mix. But Nabers has been my guy. He's been number 2 the entire season, continues to stay there. Explosive, receiver with big playability, who I think is going to be really hard to handle and be a true alpha wide receiver for whatever team drafts him. Another my guy at the wide receiver position is Keon Coleman. And I feel like I've had to stand up and kind of be one of the leaders of the Keon Coleman fan club, as everybody has knocked him and bashed him since the season ended. This is a guy who I understand people want to kind of pigeonhole all bigger wide receivers into the same boat. And people are doing that with Keon Coleman. And I've said it for the last couple episodes, so I'm not going to get into it again. But people want to pigeonhole him into being N'Keal Harry or Quentin Johnston. This is a guy who returned kicks and punts for Florida State. This is a guy who has explosive returns on film with jumping over people, making people miss. Like, this is not a stiff player. Yes, his time speed was not great, but you watch him run the gauntlet drill. You watch his film, his play speed is faster than his time speed for sure. You see a guy who makes tremendous acrobatic catches. You see a guy who can throw it in his territory and he can adjust to the football and shows the ball skills and the body control. I really like Keon Coleman's game. I've been comping him to T. Higgins, but I think people are trying to separate him to be what other bigger guys were. Those guys were not explosive return guys as well. There's a lot to like about Keon Coleman's game. Is there refinement needed? Sure. Is there some more varying route tempo? For sure. Releases and maybe even some separation quickness concerns at the top of his routes. Yeah, those are all warranted questions, but he doesn't need a tremendous amount of separation due to his catch radius, his length, his hands, his ball skills, his ability to adjust. So I think there's a lot to like about Keon Coleman's game. Whether you want to tell me he's going to be a starting X, a starting Z, a big slot, I think there's a variety of roles he can play at the next level. Another receiver who's one of my guys is Anaya Smith out of Texas A&M. Been talking about him for a couple years. I've said it a lot. Movement skills of Kadarius Toney, but a better route runner, versatile offensive weapon, the ability to make people miss. You see it as a returner. You see it as a runner. You see it as a receiver. You add that explosiveness and that versatile, unique offensive chess piece, and on top of the fact that he could legitimately be a route runner, I'm really intrigued by his overall game. He's got great contact balance for a guy who's 190 pounds. He bounces off people. He's hard to take down. There's a lot to like about Ainias Smith's game. I think some team's going to get a steal somewhere on day 3 of the NFL draft. If we take this to the tight end position, start 2 guys are going to be day 2 guys, but both guys I've been talking about all year. So I'm going to classify them as my guys. And that's Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State and Theo Johnson out of Penn State. Start with Ben Sinnott. Some people might look at him as an H-back or fullback. No, I think he could play that role, but I think he's a tight end who not only can hold his own in blocking. Is he going to be a guy who holds up in line at the point of attack? Probably not, but he's aggressive. He's a willing blocker. And I think he's a guy who runs good routes, has very good athleticism and movement skills. He produces yak. He can attack the seam. He's got route running chops. He's got body control and ball skills. I think he offers a lot at the next level as a guy who can stay on the field and play a variety of roles as your starting tight end. Theo Johnson, on the other hand, a guy who's got very good to great athleticism, movement skills, straight line speed and burst. He's got catch radius. He's got length. To me, he starts out immediately as a tight end too with the upside traits to become a starter at the next level. Didn't have high level production in college. I think he could be one of those guys that's going to be a better NFL tight end than he was a college tight end. There's some route running and route refinement needed, but there's a lot to like about Theo Johnson. So those are 2 of my guys at the tight end position that I'm really intrigued with. If we take this over to the defensive side of the ball, let's start at the defensive tackle position. Couple guys that I'm really intrigued with. First one is Michael Hall Jr. out of Ohio State. Undersized for a defensive tackle. 6'2.5", 290. But he's got really good athleticism, movement skills, short area quickness, and burst. He's got good play strength for his frame. He uses his hands really well, shows good technique, had a great Senior Bowl week. To me, he's got the upside to be a starting 3-tech defensive tackle. So if you have a really big nose tackle next to him, or you have a lot of size on your D line, and you're looking for a guy to be that upfield penetrating disruptor, he's gonna be an interior disruptor at the next level. I always am infatuated with that style. I liked Aaron Donald way back when coming out, but Michael Hall Jr. not at that level. But I like those guys who are interior disruptors. I think Michael Hall is going to add a lot to a defensive line with his ability to get into the backfield, stopping run plays, creating havoc on the quarterback. Another guy, different style, but similar in terms of what he brings to the table, and that's Brandon Dorlus out of Oregon. I do think he could either be a starting defensive end as like a 5-tech, but a guy who's also going to kick inside the defensive tackle and sub packages. He's got good athleticism and movement skills. I really like the short area quickness and initial burst. He's got very good play strength and physicality. He's a power rusher. He can set the edge. So there's a lot to like about his game. I think Michael Hall's a little bit more of the clear, penetrating 3-tech. I think Dorlus is a little bit more of that versatile defensive line that you could do a variety of things with him at the next level. If we take this to the edge group, a couple guys that stand out. First one is Jalix Hunt out of Houston Christian. Probably a late round 3, early round 4 guy, but I watched him late. He's a developmental pass rushing edge, but I like the size. He's got very good athleticism, movement skills, speed, closing burst. He's got good first step quickness and bend off the edge. He shows good range with open tackle ability. There's a lot to like about Hunt's game translating to the next level. I don't think he can have too much put on his plate right off the bat. He's not going to be a guy right now who shows a lot of ability to get off blocks and help out in run support. But if you bring him in and understand, let him get after the quarterback early in his career, there's a lot to like about Hunt's game at the next level that I think he could really be an impactful player early in his NFL career. If we take this to the linebacker group, Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky. A little bit of a guy who wasn't being talked about a lot during the season, but I think you're going to see him probably go off the board late round 3, early round 4. Guy I'm very intrigued with. Great athleticism, speed, movement skills. good lateral quickness, range, and cover ability. He's got good burst and first step quickness as a guy who can blitz and get after the quarterback. To me, he's got the upside to be a starting linebacker. Some inconsistent in terms of instincts, techniques, and play recognition, but I think that's areas that can continue to be developed for Trayvon Wallace. If we take this to the cornerback position, a couple guys here. One, Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. Whether you want to peg him as a cornerback, a nickel corner, or a safety, he's just a football player, and he's an explosive, versatile defensive chess piece, but not as unrefined as and I really liked Isaiah Simmons coming out, but maybe it was the team or whatever, but he just didn't have that place. What was he, a linebacker? Was he a pass rusher? Was he a safety? Cooper DeJean, he's going to be in the secondary somewhere. It's just you can use him in a variety of ways. You could use him like the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. You want to use him as a safety or nickel corner, you can do different things with him. So Cooper DeJean, I like that versatility. I don't think he's going to struggle to find a position for him to be an impact player at the next level. You talk into account that at level of athleticism, the straight line speed, the linear movement skills, and the closing burst. He's got cover skills. He's got great ball skills, very good play strength and physicality and run support and in coverage. I think he's probably best for the starting cornerback in zone, but he can play man. But he's a guy who I really am intrigued by the overall package of what he can bring to a defense at the next level. I think he'll come off the board somewhere mid-teens to late round one. Three other guys who would be my guys in the cornerbacks list. One is Max Melton out of Rutgers. I think he's a round two guy. I think he's got good size and frame. I think he's got great athleticism, speed, movement skills, footwork, closing burst. He's got play strength. He's got cover skills. He's got great ball skills, good instincts. He could be a starting nickel corner or on the outside. So a lot to like about his game. Another guy, another day two guy, Andrew Phillips out of Kentucky. 5'10 and a half, 190. So he's only got average size. His frame's okay. It's good. Very good athleticism, speed, closing bursts, and movement skills. He's got good agility and change of direction skills. He's got good cover skills, good play strength, toughness, physicality. I like how hard he plays. I think he's got the upside to be a really good starter at the next level. Doesn't have the ideal length or size that you're looking for. Some inconsistent in terms of his instincts, but really tough, really good play strength. Lot to like about his game at the next level. Renardo Green out of Florida State. Another guy, I think late round 3, early round 4. 5'11", 186 pounds. So the size and frame are fine. Above average athleticism, burst and speed. Very good footwork, agility, movement skills, and change of direction skills. I like the instincts and the techniques, good cover skills and recovery ability. To me, he's a press man corner with upside to become a starter. Got some inconsistencies in terms of run support, a little too aggressive at times, but I like Renardo Green a lot. Watch, obviously, a lot of Florida State is one of my teams I follow closely in Florida State. A lot to like about Renardo Green. And my last cornerback before I hit upon a couple safeties is Cam Hart out of Notre Dame. I think he's probably an early day pick. 6'3", 200, so very different body type than some of the other guys we're talking about. Great size, good frame, good athleticism. He's got speed. He's got closing bursts for a guy his size. He's got really good physicality. He's got instincts and play recognition, great length. He starts out as a depth cornerback with press skills and the upside to become a starter. A lot to like about Cam Hart. Maybe some inconsistent in terms of his ball skills and production. Sometimes struggles to recover, but I think there's a lot to like about Cam Hart, especially as a guy we're probably going to see go off the board in round 4. And if we take this to the safeties, 2 guys I want to talk about, or actually 3 guys I want to talk about. The first one is Jaden Hicks out of Washington State. Great size, good frame, good athleticism, and straight line speed with closing bursts. I like the length, the play strength, the aggressiveness, and physicality in run support. Shows really good instincts, ball skills, and cover ability. Lot to like about his game. I think maybe there's some inconsistencies in terms of lateral movement, his agility, his change of direction stuff. But there's a lot to like about Jaden Hicks's game at the next level. Cole Bishop out of Utah, probably a round 3 guy. Great athleticism, speed, burst, shows short area quickness, really good play strength and toughness, good in run support, good instincts. I think he's got the upside to be a starting strong safety at the next level. Sometimes maybe a little over aggressive in coverage, some inconsistent techniques, but nothing I think that will hinder him at the next level. And then one other, my guy, safety position out of Wake Forest, probably early day 3, is Malik Mustafa out of Wake. 5'10", 209 pounds. So obviously the length, the size, a little bit of an issue, some inconsistencies in terms of his techniques and instincts, even over aggressive at times. But you're talking about an undersized safety with a good compact frame, above average athleticism and speed, good closing bursts and movement skills. Love the play strength, the physicality, the toughness at the catch point. He's got good zone cover ability. I think he's got the upside to become a starting safety at the next level and probably be an early day 3 pick. So there it is, guys. My guys on both the offense and defensive side of the ball. Just kind of giving you a little snapshot of some guys that I'm a little bit higher on or really intrigued with at different points throughout the draft. So a couple round 1 guys in there, some day 2 guys, but some day 3 guys. So just to kind of keep those names in the back of your mind that I'm really intrigued with. Probably talk about how much I like those picks when they come off the board, because these are guys that I kind of have penciled and starred next to their names of guys that I'm really excited to kind of see how they transition to the NFL. So again, if you're enjoying this content, like I mentioned at the top of the show, get over to the website, ssfootball.com, fastest and easiest way to get there. Check out the premium content tab, and for $9.99, you get access to all 3 notebooks. Please consider purchasing it if you haven't, or if you've bought it in the past but haven't done so this year. It significantly helps us out to continue to do what we do here. So, on behalf of our sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, thank you for joining us, and we look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.